This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. Today in the studio, I've got my beautiful wife, Shandell Rogers, the queen of JKR Windows. And we're going to be discussing one of our 4 pillars here at JKR Windows, relationships. The other 3 are health, finance, and spirituality. But one of the most important ones to us is relationships. And what better person to come and talk about relationships with me than my beautiful wife.
And
so we've been going back and forth on what angle we wanted to take here. Do we want to relate it to sales? Maybe not. Do we want to
answer some sales?
So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about how relationships relate to sales. But one of the reasons we put our 4 pillars in place here was not just specifically so we can all make more money. It's so we can live a more meaningful and fulfilling life with the people that we love, the people that we have to work with or get to work with and to interact with every day with our customers and the people that we meet throughout our lives. And then also our health, both physically and mentally, our spirituality and how connected we are, how present we are, and all of the amazing things that can come from the practices of spirituality, not just religion, but there's so much more to it. And then, it's important here in these United States that we also have our finances put together and we have a game plan and we're building wealth for ourselves. But when it comes to relationships, man, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, both in my relationship with my wife and with JKR Windows, if I hadn't put an extreme focus on my ability to communicate and build relationships. So we want to offer some resources here for you to be able to take some of these ideas and plant some seeds in you to be able to level up as a communicator, as a father and a husband, as a teammate, as a leader, so you can level up in every other area of your life. So when it comes to relationships and when we put these pillars in place, what was the first thing that came to mind for you that was like an important aspect in one of the subcategories of this pillar?
You can't put me on the spot.
That was like a legitimate question. Did I ask it did I like say it in too many ways?
Yes.
I have a weird tendency of taking one question and turning it into 3.
Yeah. Can you ask me again?
Okay. So just your first thought when we brought up relationships as being one of our pillars, as like, I know you've got always a million things running through your head about the different angles and how we could approach it. But what was one subcategory that you thought was maybe as important as any others under relationships?
Subcategory of relationships?
Yeah, like one of the things that we wanted to cover under that pillar.
I think your relationship at home with your spouse or significant other.
That's what I was trying to get to. I already knew the answer. I was just trying to get it out.
It goes into all of your other areas, how everything is at home.
Yeah. And not everybody has wife and kids at home like I do.
Yeah.
But, everybody has their goals and their different path and their relationships with people in their circle, whether that's at home or your friends, is going to trickle into the other areas of your life. And if those things aren't healthy, I know at least for me, it really affects the way that I operate on a day-to-day basis as a leader and a communicator and a salesperson. And early on in my marriage and my sales career, I didn't realize how important it was. And I would leave in a little tissy fit and think that I was just going to be able to turn it off and be able to go have a fantastic day.
And then he would come home.
And it doesn't work like that.
And figure it out.
I would have to come back home because it was now like hanging over my head. And there was this lingering solution that we needed to come to. And as long as it was still lingering out there, it was not just that day, but there were some times that it would linger for long periods of time and it affects my energy. It affects my enthusiasm, my ability to go out and do hard shit. So having stuff together at home, as important as maybe any of your other habits or disciplines that you have. And one thing that I've gotten really good at.
Apologizing. Because I'm not very good at it, admittedly.
And I was teaching my kids this the other day. You know, it's whether it's your fault or not, it's worth the effort to get it put back together.
And we've gotten really good at putting it back together quickly so we can.
Yeah, you've got to be able to move on. And we were, you know,
quit wasting time on the small things.
I was talking to my daughters because they're really close in age and they're constantly at each other's throats, and one wants the other thing and the other one wants the other thing. And it's always something. And it got to a really heated place and some stuff was said and some fingers were smashed, feelings were hurt. Nobody wanted to fix it. And it's, you know, you can relate this to a lot of other things. We're all prideful and we're always thinking that we're the ones that are right. But you can either be right or you can be happy. And it's not just relating to marriage. It's that way with anything. Like my kids were dealing with this and I was watching it transpire. And they could have either been right and it was their fault, or they could get this thing fixed and apologize and talk it out, and we could get back to making progress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They came around.
They did come around. And I was having this conversation all while doing 76 miles an hour down the freeway in an RV. But that's such a cool opportunity as a father to be able to take every single one of those opportunities and not just get irritated and lack patience and just, you know, avoid it, but to see it as an opportunity and have the conversations and to be able to talk people through it, whether it's your kids or your wife or your teammates. Not everybody's equipped with the same background and communication skills, but those relationships, one of the questions I asked my daughter was, this relationship is important to you, isn't it? And she very reluctantly said, yes.
Yeah.
But these are important relationships, and they're worth the effort to not only help optimize them wherever they're at, but be able to put them back together when things get a little bit rocky.
Agreed.
So
communication is very important.
100%. Yeah. One of the concepts that's been a little slow to sink in for me is similar to the 5 love languages. Everybody has slight variations of what their strongest love language is. And if that's your strongest love language, that's typically one of the ways that you show the most affection and love. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always mean that it's going to be received with the same type of intention that you have.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with communication. Some people need communication to be able to maintain relationships and the momentum within projects or anything. And some people don't. So for me, you know, I can run off of very little communication. And as long as she can tell me how hot I look and how great my muscles are, and I can go, I'll go for 6 weeks just on that one conversation. I won't need to talk to anybody again. She filled my cup and I'm ready to go conquer the world now. But on the other hand, she's a communicator and her love language is quality time. And as a subcategory of quality time is spending time communicating and talking through things and just being present. Would you agree?
I would agree.
So not only is it important for business and for sales to be able to communicate at a high level, but to maintain relationships, especially if somebody has the love language of quality time, communication is so important. And I still got a long ways to go, you guys. But I've gotten a ton better and I'm very intentional about it because this is the most important woman in my life, the most important relationship to me for not only our family unit, but for me to be able to operate at the level that I want to operate. She gives me so much energy when we're on the same page to just want to go conquer the world and to go prove to her that I'm the man that she signed up with, that I'm worthy. What do you think?
Yeah. So what do you think has been our best communication aspects, keeps us connected and communicating at high levels with each other?
So we have a couple things that we do on a fairly regular basis with our our weekly check-ins with each other and getting synced up on our calendars, which we don't do like a formal check-in always, but we're pretty good at doing a check-in with each other. And like, what's your schedule this week? What do you have going on? What are the things we're going to be doing together? One of the things that we have put in place that we don't make exceptions on is our weekly date night. And sometimes we're out of town, so it overlaps with stuff, but
sometimes we move it around. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that's very important, and we stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the calendar thing used to bug me in the beginning, but I think that's been like a huge benefit.
Just to be able to see the calendar.
Just to see the calendar, everything that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a transition that we were going through. Because do you want to look at this cluster of a calendar? Or do you not want to look at it? What are the benefits?
Yeah.
And, well, what are the pros and cons, I guess? And we went through that stage for a couple months where I was encouraging you and I was trying to be as tactful as possible. Like, you can't get irritated at me when you got the whole access to my calendar. And
I was like, I have to schedule my time in with you into the calendar. This is ridiculous. But no, it just works for us. It's really good.
And if we want to make it work, we have to find these workarounds and the things that are conducive for your schedule and the things that are conducive for my schedule.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is we've got a lot going on. Both of us do. Yeah. And if we want to be able to make time, we've got to be intentional about it. And the calendars is what a great way to do it, is to be able to just go on there and see where there's openings, where there's things that are busy. And sometimes we move stuff around. Yeah. Like there was something today that I had a meeting, but there was something that was very important for me to be at. And we tried to move it around. Didn't work. But because we have our priorities in place and we have the visibility of the calendar.
Scheduling everything.
Yeah, it was a fun transition, but now it's just such an important part of how we are intentional with not only the two of us, but also like the daddy-daughter dates, the mommy-daughter dates, the doctor's appointments, the musical rehearsals and dance recitals. And
yeah, it's helpful.
So now if I was to ask the same question back to you, would it be the same?
Yeah, I think the weekly check-ins help a ton. If there's conflicts, we can address them before they are the day of, usually. And then
you look amazing today, by the way.
We haven't done it for a while, but we have like a lifestyle design, which is fun for people that are just starting to do like a weekly check-in. It kind of helps you set up goals and what your goals are for short-term, long-term together individually.
And you remember all the categories? There was 10 different categories.
I don't remember all of them. And I know there's like home, your values is something, family.
Yeah. So it was, I don't remember them either, but it's cool to be able to have this picture that we've spent, we probably haven't done it in 2 or 3 months, but this is a big picture view of what our lifestyle design can be and will be. It's like our vision board that's on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And so we've got all these categories, and the home one was one that we created. So that was like an 11th one. Because we were, a couple of years ago, we were trying to envision the home that we wanted to live in and all the non-negotiables, all the stuff that was like the wants versus needs. And we ended up with like everything that we wanted in this house because we were intentional about it. And it's so important for every person watching this, if you want to lead an incredible life, that you're intentional with every area of your life. And you don't have to start out, with some magnificent picture and everything detailed out. When I first saw this lifestyle design, a good friend of mine showed it to me for the first time, and his was incredibly detailed. And it was a little bit daunting. It was like overwhelming to look at how detailed he was. And then I've started like processing it, and because of his personality and how detail oriented he is, just naturally, this is what has evolved out of that. So what does my version of that look like? It doesn't have to look like his.
Yeah, we just made it our own.
But we started just slowly getting in there. And in the beginning, it was tense. Like we'd get in there and I've got a million things going on and we're trying to get in the the habit of doing these check-ins, and I'm looking at my calendar and I'm looking at emails, and she's like, are you going to be here with me and do this right now? I was like, how long is this going to take? But then over time, it evolved, and it's gotten funner and funner to be able to sit down with each other and visualize and dream and put our goals onto a spreadsheet about what's next in every one of these areas, with our kids, with our future homes, with our business, with our investments, with our health. Yeah. One of the ones that I loved on there that was added later on by this friend of mine, relationships, which was one of the 10 categories that was on there about how do you strengthen your relationships? How do you build new relationships? Mm-hmm. And then, one of the really cool things that he added on there was also like rekindling relationships with people from your past. Because we get so caught up in the day-to-day. Like I'm so guilty of this. Like the days start rolling into each other, and before you know it, an entire year has gone by, multiple years have gone by, and you haven't talked to some of these people that you have history with, that you care about. That the only way that they're going to know that you care about them
is if you
reach out and let them know. So I know not all of my friends watch this, but there has been a couple of my friends that just out of nowhere, you haven't heard from me in a long time, and I'm going to send a message and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I hope things are going well. Let's catch up sometime. And just simple as that. Like, no, I'm not trying to get anything out of it, but there's some people that I love dearly, some old friends of mine, some maybe family, sometimes cousins and aunts and uncles that haven't heard from me in a long time. And that's another aspect of this relationships that's important, is not just the people you see every day that you get to work with, your customers, but also there's a bunch of people that maybe you haven't talked to in a long time, that for those relationships to stay healthy, so they know that you care, you got to be intentional about it.
Yeah. Right. You never know when someone needs to hear something from someone.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're thinking about them. So reach out.
Reach out. So simple. And you know what? I know that I sound cheesy when I send those messages, but as I'm sending it, it's like, this looks cheesy. I don't care. I'm just sending it anyways. It's like, this is the way that I feel. It may sound cheesy, and I'm a grown ass man sending a cheesy message to somebody.
Love it.
But you never know. Like she said, you never know when somebody needs to hear that message, where they could be in a tough place in their life or going through some shit. And that's an uncommon thing in today's world, to be able to get a message like that. It's kind of like the old days when you used to get a surprise letter from somebody. It's like, wow, I haven't heard from him so long. It's great to get a letter from you. I don't think I'm going to write back.
That was part of Jeff and Brandon's Solid 30 challenge.
Was it?
They were writing letters to friends.
Like actual letters? Snail mail?
Send them in the mail.
Yeah. Oh, we darned.
Or reaching out in some way, but they did do letters.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What else do we got here that we want to cover?
I don't know. I just written down some notes about making date night important, scheduling it weekly, put it on the calendar so you know when it is.
And it's
around if you have to.
Non-negotiable.
So I know people are going to say, oh, we live long distance, or I work out of town. Like, I know some of our guys work out of town.
Uh-huh.
But I've heard of people that will like read a book together on Zoom or on the phone, at night, just read a book together or eat dinner together on Zoom. You can do something still.
Mm-hmm. You got to be intentional. And again, it goes back to like, well, that kind of sounds cheesy.
No.
Well, how serious do you want to take your relationship?
Yeah.
I do cheesy shit all the time with my wife, with my kids. And sometimes it's funny, and sometimes it's like, seriously, Dad.
I love it.
But
your inner child.
These are the most important relationships that will ever be in front of me. And if you're not intentional about it, if you're not doing cheesy, weird shit to evoke a response emotionally, something memorable, you're just going through life. And this is what most people do. And this is why the divorce rate is so high and there's so little commitment in today's world, is because people just aren't willing to do cheesy, fun shit anymore. But
you do it when you're dating. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like, you do whatever it takes in the beginning, and then you think it's over. And it's like, that's just the beginning. Now you got the rest
of your life, if you're serious, that you have to keep the spark. You got to keep the passion, the intimacy, the love. And sometimes that means doing cheesy ass shit as a grown ass man. And I freaking love it. And it's okay to get vulnerable and to show people your cheesy side, especially for these very important relationships in your life. Yeah. Were we going somewhere with that?
I don't think so. That was just off my notes.
Okay. What else you got on them notes?
Like doing a week-long trip once a year, I think is important. With no kids.
No kids?
Yeah, we do that every year.
Do we have one planned this year?
It's usually our all-side trip.
That's right. That's right. Every year the manufacturer sends us
one a year minimum. So if you can do two, do two. And then do like little weekend things every quarter or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a little get together or a getaway.
Getaway. We're going to get together.
A couple's getaway that we're doing at a really cool like glamping resort. So it's only over a weekend, but we're trying to plan this stuff and be intentional and keep this relationship strong, because not only is it important that we keep this together for ourselves, but we're also an example to our children, which will also grow up and have relationships of their own. And they're basically going to model after the relationships that have been in their life. Speaking of those little children, my daughter just slipped a note under the
waiting for us. She's like, "Are you done yet?"
What does it say, Colton? Here we go. Mom, can you come out here? Awesome. Ava, we're almost ready, babe. Be right there.
But yeah, I was trying to pull up those questions, but is there anything that you would say you could relate stuff you learned from relationships to sales?
Yeah, I think the very best in sales, the experts, the professionals, the top of their industries are the best at building relationships. And you build relationships in a very short period of time sometimes, especially in our industry, where this is a same day sale, sometimes next day. And you've got an opportunity in a very short period of time to be able to make an impression, a good impression, build some rapport, establish somewhat of a relationship with this person, let them know that they can trust you. We are a reputable company. We believe in what we do. And sometimes you've just got like 6 minutes to be able to make that kind of an impact, to build that kind of a relationship. And, another thing that's like, whatever, Jefferson, like that's not what it is. Like we're there to just set an appointment. I never looked at it like that. Every single person I talked to, whether I was going to set an appointment with them or not, I was building a relationship with. And, as inexperienced as I was early on, because I had that just kind of instilled in me, and it was something that I did naturally, and every door that I knocked on, every person that I talked to was this opportunity for me to make an impact, to plant some seeds, to build trust in this relationship. And people remember you for that. Like you're not just another salesperson just going through the motions. You've got an opportunity to build relationships with people, whether you're a setter or you're one of the leaders in a company that's closing the deals. And if you choose to look at it the other way, well, things are going to be more difficult for you. You're maybe one of those people that's more transactional. And I don't know about you, but when I can see a transactional person from a mile away, and I don't mesh well with those kind of people. But if I've bought all kinds of stuff from door-to-door people or any other type of salesperson, especially when they're relational and they call you by your name and they've built some trust and they've built some rapport and they've asked you about your kids and they've asked you about your house.
Yeah.
And where you come from and how long you've been here. And they do it genuinely because they're actually interested, not just because they're going through the motions. So you want to take your sales game to the next level? Start practicing and being intentional with all of the relationships in your life and just watch how it trickles in to how you build relationships with customers, even if you only got 6 minutes to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. What about have any advice for like employee relationships?
Ooh, this is a good one.
Like for interoffice or different areas of the company working together?
Yeah, lots of different variations of office dynamics, but it's also another area that you've got an opportunity to create a culture, like an interoffice culture, that can either be completely disconnected and everybody's just going about their business doing their own thing, or what I feel like we've done really well with here at JKR Windows is we've got an incredible relationship with every person. Everybody is known by their first name. We know intricate details about each person and their family, and we go out of our way to give hugs and handshakes and say good morning and good evening. And if you compare the two, and we've all been a part of slight variations of those types of cultures where one is just all business, very transactional. Yeah. Like you go in and you shut your mouth and you do your job. And you can argue the effectiveness of each one of them. And I'm sure everybody's got a little bit different opinions of that. But for us, it's so important to have a place that you can show up and be excited and to be able to get some fulfillment and to have something that you can be proud of that doesn't just get shut off at 4:00, but it's something that, because of the goals and the relationships and the responsibilities that you have within inside of those goals, to be able to go home and like continue the enthusiasm and the creativity and the contribution that you have to your team and to the goals of the company. Would you add anything to that?
I like it.
That's boring.
Sometimes I'm just listening to you.
I know. Okay. Do we feel good about that?
Yeah. And then we're going to bring in a relationship person to speak to the team to also go along with this pillar, right?
We are. And
I think it would be great to have it set up to where they could bring their spouse if they want.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
significant other or someone you have a close relationship with.
And there'll be slight variations of the experts that we bring in, but this one particular person that we're referring to is a relationship expert, and specifically within the marriage area. So excited about bringing him in and offering more resources to everybody that tunes in for the Just Real Quick podcast, as well as everybody that's a part of the JKR Windows team, to continue to level everybody up and change perspective and offer tools for people to level up with their communication, with their relationships, with their leadership, with the impact that they can make in the people's lives that they come across on a day-to-day basis.
So all in,
baby, on your relationships. So thank you guys for checking in to another episode of Just Real Quick. If you haven't already, go and like and subscribe to the Just Real Quick podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Leave us a review, 5 stars, of course, and share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. And keep coming back every week for more tips and tricks on sales, but then all kinds of other incredible resources for you to level up in other areas of your life. Just real quick, later on.